tonight, Impact Wrestling for TNA, we get to see a Full Metal Mayhem match, and they really did step up and they really did deliver. You had Team 3D, you had the Hardys, and you had the American Wolves out there, and they were basically beating the shit out of each other. Davey Richards basically, I thought, died out there in the middle of the ring, giving it up for TNA, and you got to be a little bit surprised. I know that there's a lot of pride involved in what those guys are doing out there. When I saw, Bully Ray tweeting throughout the day that this could be the best TLC in wrestling history, not just TNA with the Full Metal Mayhems, but including, the ones they did over in WWE for SummerSlam and WrestleMania and countless other shows that they went out there in their different variations of the TLC match. Of course, nothing's really going to compete to the I think the first one that a lot of people think of was a TLC match, was just a regular three-way. I can't remember what the stipulation was for WrestleMania, and that one had so much buzz that they asked him at SummerSlam to come back. Well, they didn't really ask him. And when you watch interviews with these guys, especially like when they Chris Jericho interviewed the Hardys, they didn't really ask anything. They just told them and they demanded them, and they have stories about how they would be asked to do ladder matches on a day's notice to go out and pump up a new SmackDown or something like that. The Hardys would, and they really did deliver tonight. There's a lot of things out there over TNA right now with the Bound for Glory. The card is finally announced. The card is finally out there on a Wednesday for this company's big WrestleMania event. We're finally figuring out the pieces that are going to be putting these together. And it honestly doesn't look that great. You can say something about the television, that they've had a good hour here and they've had a good hour there. It is a good thing that they planned these three-way tag matches, because I think these have been the bright points of TNA for the last few weeks. And, looking at this show, because of the rules that are set in place with TNA and the Japanese fans and the Japanese fan base of not being able to put on guys that, are either involved in title matches. Titles can't be defended if they've been changed later because of the traditions and, the way things have always gone down in TNA. Bound for Glory, as of right now, 2014, is looking... I don't know. I mean, honestly, the first thing that comes to my mind is those one night only pay-per-views that TNA has run in the past that honestly nobody's really seen. I have two of them in my DVD collection that I keep up on with TNA. Neither of these shows I've been able to check out. I picked them up on the $5 Black November sale. This one was the Joker's Wild show that I'm holding in my hands here. Joker's Wild was some sort of a lethal lottery sort of show where basically they had to compete in randomized tag team matches where you didn't know who your partner was going to be until you went out there. And then if you won your tag match, you got put into a gauntlet match, which is basically TNA's Royal Rumble. To find out who was going to be the winner of $100,000 cash that night. And then, Destination X Extravaganza, which basically was a Destination X show, which just has, random X Division wrestlers having matches. And I've heard from some people that have gone out of their way to watch the DVDs that they're actually pretty good. And Bound for Glory seems like it would just be one of those, the Japanese edition of TNA, where they're incorporating the stars of TNA in these sort of matches. The only problem is that with the exception of the main event, which features the Great Muta and Tajiri, I don't really know anybody else that's going to be on this card. The two matches that we knew last week was going to be the three-way match for the TNA X Division Championship. Low-Key going up against Samoa Joe versus Kaz Hayashi. Of course... I think everybody knows the spoilers of TNA. If not, this is the point where you just click out of this video and just, maybe if you want to leave a comment down below telling me that I suck for telling them. I don't know. But if you don't want to know, this is more than enough time for you to get out of here and come back at another time. Or just click on another video and check those ones out. But okay, Samoa Joe was coming in to the tapings as X Division champion. If you watched TV, you think of Samoa Joe as champion, but they've already pre-taped the shows that are to air on Spike TV in the upcoming month already before Bound for Glory, and Samoa Joe has to relinquish the title due to a injury, and basically Loki is the guy who picks up the win in order to keep the or to I guess basically keep the title going and move forward. So if you are in a if you are looking at a wrestling history standpoint, right now Loki is your X Division champion. If you are, basically just a TV watcher, you think of Samoa Joe being your champion. So, with the sort of the rules and the backstage politics and the way that wrestling works in Japan, and you can't really pull these sort of things over their eyes, or they're already really pissed off. If you go back to a few months ago, basically, TNA had the Great Sonata as the X Division champion, and he was supposed to have a match in Japan when they had their co-shows over there, and they basically switched the title. They got all pissed off, so they're basically doing the same thing to this company that is putting on their Bound for Glory and it's happened in the past, and it's a big clusterfuck. Nobody really knows, is Samoa Joe going to bring the X Division championship out when he makes his entrance, when somebody wins this match, which has to be Samoa Joe to go along with what the television is going to be. Is Samoa Joe going to hold the title up? Is somebody low-key get a run out with the title? There's a million things that are out there. Kazuyoshi, who's, of course, a big name from WCW. Well, he's not really a big name. He's just one of those guys that just happened to be on the roster at the time. Maybe you saw him on Nitro or Thunder somewhere along the way. I don't think he really carries big name value to most people who watch wrestling these days, but a lot of people are watching Nitro on the WCW network, so he's one guy to have out there. Next match is going to be the main event. This is the one that they put the most TV time into. It's the returning Great Muta. I know when the Great Muta started showing up, and he showed up at Lockdown this year, it was sort of like a big deal, of him bringing his talent over. The big guy that he brought over was the Great Sonata, and they sort of ran this storyline where Sonata wasn't, he couldn't win the big one, he couldn't get it done, and James Storm started pointing fingers, saying the reason that he couldn't get it done was the Great Muta, wasn't a good teacher to him, and that basically, he was trying to point out the flaws in what Great Muta was doing with Sonata, and due to some sort of I guess you could say the best word to do it is some sort of a trance that he put over him, sort of maybe putting him into some sort of a cult. James Storm, now with the I guess the living legend, as he likes to call himself, has sort of got Sonata working for him, as Sonata came down and attacked the Great Muta on Impact a little bit ago. Muta is now teaming up with WWE and ECW famed Tajiri. Of course, the guy who used to run around with William Regal back in the day during the Attitude Era, the guy who pissed in his tea. That's your main event. I don't know if you can really get that pumped up for it. Basically, one of the big matches that they had sort of, to get people behind this was Sonata wrestling Austin Aries and getting the win on Impact because of Storm on the outside. And Austin Aries is nowhere to be found on this card, so it sort of just leaves you in this weird state of not knowing, what to do, or not knowing who the hell, what the hell's going on. The rest of this card, it just sort of seems like it's thrown together. More than anything is the tag team match, which would be Team 3D, Bully Ray and Devon, who aren't the tag champs. Your tag champs are going to be the Wolves. And they're nowhere featured on this card at all, even though they seem to be the future of TNA if they are moving anywhere into the future. But Team 3D going to be going into the Hall of Fame. It seems the Hall of Fame ceremony in some faction is going to be going on. Maybe if they are able to get themselves to a point where they're able to put Bound for Glory 2014 out on DVD, if the company still does, move forward from here on out, even though there are no tapings. for the December shows yet. And Spike TV has said to TNA that they would love to have them stay on until the last week of December, and then January they would be on their way to find a new direction or a new company to hold them. And there's rumors out there of somebody being out there that's going to pick up the ball. Maybe it's on a smaller scale. Maybe TNA has to scale back even more than they've already scaled back now, just to be able to keep into business. But as of right now, nobody knows what the shows for December is going to be. And some people even question, because a lot of these guys aren't even going to be around for what would be the taped show, which would be next Wednesday show. What are they even going to talk about from Bound for Glory? With a lot of these guys not being there, from the Great Muta, Team 3D, and a lot of other guys. You can't really have guys bragging that they won or guys bragging that they lost if they're not even going to be featured on the show at all. But Team 3D, Bully Ray and Devon are going to be going up against a team of Abyss and Tommy Dreamer. I don't even know if Abyss right now in storyline is a babyface or a heel, so I really have no clue. In the showing of who's the future of TNA, they have Ethan Carter III, one of the hottest talents there is. In TNA, going up against a guy named Hama. I got no clue who that is. I can't get pumped up for that at all. MVP is going to be wrestling a guy, Sakamoto. I think I've heard that name from listening to the Observer's sort of New Japan reviews that sometimes I'll listen to, just to, get those names fresh in my mind in case a guy like Kenta does come over. I will, know some of the feuds and some of the matches that he's been involved in, and sort of know the, even though I'm not watching, know something about what's going over on that side of the world. In the next two matches, you got Manic against Tanaka. You got Havoc wrestling a match against Velvet Sky that nobody's going to like. And then in the last match, you get a tag team match with some guys whose names I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but I've got no clue. I know when this show was announced, I know some people out there were saying that they were going to order this show just because of the Japanese feature. A lot of people always remember the WCW pay-per-view that was held back in the day, and I honestly didn't watch that show because I wasn't allowed to order pay-per-views at that time. That, I think in my mind, that's probably like around 1990 or the early 90s at all. But if I remember watching like the WCW Saturday morning show, I do remember the sort of like the controversy of Ric Flair and the Japanese wrestler, where I believe Flair had lost the championship, and then Flair had to go back over to Japan and win it. And if you've seen it, I can't remember if that pay-per-view is called The Land of the Rising Sun. I remember the last time I really heard about this is when the network launched, basically because that was a WCW show using WCW wrestlers, but because I think it was put on by, would that be New Japan Wrestling? I know that I think they actually owned the show, so it's not on the WWE network, or maybe WWE doesn't have a tape. Maybe they should have bought that one from Above Average Muda when he had it up for sale on eBay, and maybe then they would have a copy in order to put it on the network for us all. But I do remember a few people saying that it wasn't out there, but I don't know. I mean, Sunday I'm gonna be busy. I don't even get off work until 7. I guess maybe if I get home right away, I can watch the main event of the match and maybe catch a feel of what the people actually hear about it. But except for that, I don't think I'm going to be checking out anything from the show because nothing really grabs me. It's almost like those one night only shows. They might have a special feel. It's one day you're looking through your shelves and you're like, well, I don't know what I'm going to watch. I'll pop in one of those things because I don't really know what happens, even though on one of those DVDs they show James Storm the winner on the back of it, so it sort of takes the surprise away for who's going to win the gauntlet match at the end because he's holding up that big damn check. But I think that's the only thing you can get out of this Bound for Glory pay-per-view. I don't really see anything else. I saw somebody take a picture of the, it wasn't the advertisement, but when you bring up the on-demand thing and it says, what channel the pay-per-view is going to be on, and it gives you some of the information. And the one thing that I was really looking forward to seeing what the price was. And TNA and the cable company have come together with a price of $55 for this show. And I know a lot of times, since February, with the let's see, there's been What shows have actually been? Has it just been Lockdown and Slammiversary? I think those might be the only two real pay-per-views that WWE has, I'm sorry, that TNA has run since the launch of the WWE Network. But you're talking $55 plus tax to get this show. So you're looking at 6 months, half of a year of the WWE Network to watch one 3-hour block of TNA wrestling. It seems pretty excessive to me. I think that I would more than likely just flip over, and a lot of people are going to stream this. And what doesn't make sense to me is that I know that the people that will be streaming it will be those people that are out there complaining. There's going to be very few people out there that are really, big TNA fans that really just do support this company. But I could see them 5,000 buys. That is the number that, if they get over, will really surprise me. And there's a lot of wrestling fans in this country, and if they hit 5,000, I'll honestly be really surprised with this card and this build. It doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot out there. And anybody who's going to be out there who's a big TNA fan, who's going to be hating me for slinging rocks at the company that they love so much, because I know those people are out there. There's people out there who hate the WWE, who love TNA, and that's the company that they give support to, and that's their favorite company in the world. And there's some people who just love wrestling, and they're going to watch anything that's out there. I don't think the build for WWE's Hell in the Cell is that much either. I mean, so it's not like I'm a big WWE fanboy who's like basically saying that like we rock and you guys can't do anything right. Right now, it just seems like with Hell in the Cell. Everything that they've built for the last few months of Cena versus Brock and Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins has just been thrown out the window. Basically, to me, if you